The big story on Explosive Exclusive. It was 2 years ago that an investigation by the Enforcement Directorate first claimed that a media portal, NewsClick, had received around 38 crore rupees funding from abroad. Times Now had then learned that the probe agency traced the flow of funds to an American millionaire, Neville Roy Singham. Neville Roy Singham was alleged to have a close association with the propaganda arm of the Communist Party of China. At that time, people in India had scoffed at the report in Times Now as something which was supporting the government. Now, a report in the New York Times has corroborated every word of what we said, talking about how there is a global nexus involved in spreading Chinese propaganda. NewsClick is a part of that propaganda arm. The New York Times says that Singham's network financed the news site and quote-unquote sprinkled its coverage with Chinese government talking points. Now, armed with this report and what the ED had said in 2021, today the BJP unleashed a no-holds-barred attack on the Congress and specifically Rahul Gandhi, saying that there may be people in India who take Chinese money indirectly to try and peddle their propaganda. But what is the compulsion of opposition parties in our own country to try and give them covering fire?
जो न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स ने लिखा है वो लिखा ये है कि भारत में ईडी ने जो रेड किया है, आइस के बारे में ये लगातार बोलते हैं सर, ईडी की रेड में जो खुलासा हुआ है उसका पूरा खुलासा किया है। और वो जो न्यूज क्लिक है सर, वो देशद्रोही गैंग, टुकड़े गैंग जो भारत को खंडित करना चाहते हैं, वो न्यूज क्लिक उस संस्था का जो है हेड कर रहा है। केवल भारत के खिलाफ एक माहौल बनाने के लिए चाइनीज पैसा दे रहे हैं।
अगर मैं कहूं तो कांग्रेस, चीन, न्यूज क्लिक सभी एक भारत विरोधी गर्भनाल से जुड़े हुए हैं। चीन के प्रति प्यार ये दिखता था और भारत के खिलाफ दुष्प्रचार ये विदेशी जमीन पर भी और विदेशी न्यूज एजेंसियों के माध्यम से भी प्रोपेगेंडा के तहत होता था। एक एजेंडा था, एंटी इंडिया, ब्रेक इंडिया कैंपेन।
Times Now reached out to NewsClick yet again. In response, the company has denied all allegations, asserting that it was an independent news organization. The editor of the news portal said that they are not a mouthpiece of the CCP. But on the Explosive Exclusive, we are going to take you beyond the allegations and the counter-allegations, the finger-pointing, and show you evidence in black and white. Is NewsClick an independent media organization that is being falsely accused of peddling Chinese agenda? We have accessed an email exchange between Neville Roy Singham and Prabir Purkayasth, the man you just saw on your screen a while ago, who is the editor-in-chief and founder of NewsClick. This is an email which raises many questions. The email, let's show that email. In fact, it has been sent by Neville Roy Singham on the 6th of January, 2021. So this is the email exclusively in possession of Times Now. Take a look at each of the details in this email, because there will be protestations. People will talk about free speech, free media, anti-government media, which is being suppressed. The emails tell us otherwise. On the 6th of January, 2021, at 5:09 p.m., Neville Singham writes an email to many people, including Prabir Purkayasth, the founder and editor-in-chief of the news portal NewsClick. What does this email show? The email reads, I think we missed the dotted line between India and China to the left, east of Bhutan. What are they talking about? They are talking about the border between China and Arunachal Pradesh. The entire email basically talks about how the border, the dotted line between India and China, should be displayed. Then the email goes on to say, clearly China and India will have to have two maps inside their countries, isn't it? The next line reads, for China, they say, by the way, they make then a map there and say, here is a map from the Diplomat where China claims Arunachal Pradesh. The question we are asking is, should there be anyone in India who is taking dictation from an American businessman sitting in Shanghai about how the map of Arunachal Pradesh should be depicted? About whether there is a dotted line or otherwise between China and India? Should there even be any doubt in the mind of any Indian citizen, irrespective of whether they are journalists, whether they are politicians, whether they are from Congress, left, BJP, about what any Indian stand is vis-a-vis India's border with China, India's border with any other country? Why is it that this company, which says that we are an independent media organization, one, is being told by Neville Roy Singham about how they should depict a map of Arunachal? Why at all is this subject even up for discussion about how India's border at Arunachal with China should be depicted? Is this then independent media, or is this people who are part of a large insidious network who are essentially shilling for China, sitting right here in our country? Let us go across, in fact, to Bhavtosh and Tejshri, both joining us live. Let me first ask you, Bhavtosh, because you have gone into this, and in fact, you were the reporter who broke this story in 2021 about how the funding happens. Simplify for us as much as possible. How does the money come from the Chinese government to Indian organizations like NewsClick via the likes of Neville Roy Singham? Bhavtosh.
Padmaja, NewsClick was under investigation way back in February 2021. It was first searched by Enforcement Directorate, and then subsequently in mid of 2021 it was again subject of investigation and search by the Income Tax Department. Now the whole part of investigation is the money that was invested around 38 crore rupees by dubious entities, and that dubious entities were fronted or allegedly fronted by Neville Singham. Around 29 crore rupees was export of services, and 9 crore rupees was FDI. Now the whole question was about the export of services. Did NewsClick carried out any kind of services that could have led to 29 crore rupees of FDI? Now, NewsClick, when their shareholders were subject to investigation by the Enforcement Directorate, they could not come out with a specific explanation as to what they in fact provided services that led to this huge amount of infusion of foreign remittance. That's what the Enforcement Directorate was probing at that point of time. Importantly, there were many people who questioned why NewsClick was being investigated, why their premises were being searched. Remember, those searches went on for nearly 4 to 5 days, and many in opposition, in fact, targeted the center and particularly the Enforcement Directorate as well as the Income Tax Department.
Okay. Let me go across also to the guests who are joining us now. We have with us Anila Singh, spokesperson of the BJP, Ratan Shah, the author, Vivek Bansal, senior leader of Congress, and Shubhankar Bhattacharya, political analyst. Mr. Bhattacharya, I want to start by asking you, do you think that somebody having a conversation with the likes of Neville Roy Singham about India's border with China at Arunachal is doing independent journalism?
See, I don't know how much truth is behind the entire story. So it has to be, deeply inspected and interrogated before we are actually making any such claims. But as far as I just trust your story, that
we are not making
there has
a claim.
been any...
We are showing an email, sir. This is not a claim. This is email exchange in black and white.
Okay,
let me for your benefit show you again, just in case you missed out. Here is what was said in an email. Let me first begin by asking you, you believe that Arunachal is an integral part of India, sir? Or are you harboring any confusion about Arunachal's borders, or whether it is partially with China?
Of course, any day, of course.
Arunachal is ours, right?
Of course.
Are undisputed for us?
Of course.
They're undisputed, right? So is Neville Roy Singham, when he tells Prabir Porkayast about where to put the dotted line, is he talking about India's position, or is he talking about China's position?
But there are two things. Was it accepted? The same email was also reverted to. Was the same email was reverted to? That again forms one basic point. The other basic point is, was the same as per the direction given in the email? Was it followed by the channel? So these are the two things which has to be, you again has to be interrogated.
So you're basically saying, that Prabir Purkayasth, who took money from Neville Roy Singham to the tune of close to 100 crore, would have told Neville Roy Singham, listen, I'm taking your money, but you're telling me to put a disputed border of Arunachal. I won't do it. I won't do it. I will take your money, but buzz off. I will not listen to you.
Let's not.
You're saying that's what he must have done.
Padmaja, let's not twist the story.
It's not twisted at all.
Let's not twist the story.
Let's actually give a very linear direction to the story. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen. No, hold on a second. Hold on a second, sir.
Let us keep
Mr. Bhattacharya, as a very learned man,
let's keep the news simple.
I'm sure you also realize. Let's hold on and take a look at the dots and how they are joined. This is how the dots are joined. First of all, there is FDI which is coming into NewsClick. How is this money coming into NewsClick? It is coming from various companies which are owned by Neville Roy Singham. How much money is coming into NewsClick via Neville Roy Singham? Initially, there was money to the effect of 9.59 crores. Then there was 28.29 crores which was given further. So essentially, Mr. Singham has given crores of rupees to Prabir Purkayasth here, and then he sends him an email, Ratan Sharda, and says, hello, Mr. Purkayasth, here is what I think about Arunachal Pradesh. Mr. Bhattacharya's argument is that Prabir Purkayasth never said, yes, I will do it. Maybe Prabir Purkayasth says, I believe that Arunachal is a part of India and I will not follow your diktat. So what if I have taken your crores? Just because you're giving me money doesn't mean I have to do your propaganda.
Padmaja, please don't put words into my mouth.
No, let's examine the logic,
don't put words into my mouth.
Let's examine the logic. This is your logic, right?
No, let me put a. Can I just add a few words of mine rather than you putting words into my mouth?
Please add as many.
All I am saying is that number one, if there has been any dubious transaction of funds, let that be properly investigated by a neutral agency. Don't say it just because one company. Why does NewsClick make such a difference? You know why?
Why it makes a difference? Because they are sitting in India and talking about creating a narrative. And this, by the way, sir, despite all your brave defenses, over the next 3 hours, we are going to show you this is not the only disingenuous activity they've engaged in.
If going to ask some questions to the government, if you are going to put some strong questions to the government, the same thing is going to fall on you.
Sir, we put very strong questions to the government, but putting strong questions to the government is very different to taking, and by the way, we put strong questions to the government not because we have taken money. We put strong questions to the government because we believe those questions need to be asked. चाइना से पैसा लेके सवाल पूछना कोई स्ट्रॉन्ग जर्नलिज्म नहीं है. It is behaving like China media. It's China media, sir. You're behaving like China media. That's the problem. Let's not try and masquerade great journalism when you're on that payroll.
I'm not here, Padmaja, I'm not here sitting as a spokesman for NewsClick. All I'm saying is these are the things that is happening in India. The moment you start questioning the government, it comes up.
So if you don't know the facts, let me ask you this very clearly.
If Times don't start doing it, you will be having.
Don't worry, sir. We have asked plenty. Problem is that unless somebody goes on an unhinged rant against the government, you think, oh, this is not good enough for us. You don't have to go on an unhinged rant. You have to ask relevant questions when they need to be asked. And without taking money from Neville Roy Singham. That is journalism. Let's not give bhashan on journalism. Okay, let me quickly. Mr. Sharda, Mr. Ratan Sharda, can you hear me?
Come on.
Mr. Ratan Sharda, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, so the logic here being given is, so what if NewsClick took money from Neville Roy Singham or some other Singham, it doesn't necessarily mean they did their bidding. Maybe he just took their money because they do great journalism and then did pro-India stories.
Well, there are no free lunches. First of all, let us understand, especially in the field of international diplomacy, in the field of counterintelligence being run by the various governments. We know that Chinese have bought media interest even in USA. They have bought it all over the world. You read the report of Freedom House. So News Minute is only one of the small cogs in the wheel. And if they are willing to make become a cog in the wheel of the entire propaganda machinery of China, they have to rethink. And it is not a question whether I ask a tough question to India or Indian government, or you ask a question to Indian government, whether you're asking within the purview of Indian national interest or you're asking in the terms of making a narrative which suits China. There is one thing called criticism, other is following a line, amplifying the line of your enemy country, and that is what hurts. When you try creating doubt about own borders, when you try creating doubt about your own intention against China, then it becomes enemy narrative. That's very simple.
And you know, somebody wants to take money and create enemy narrative, they are free to do so. They will be investigated and action will be taken. The bigger question is, Mr. Bansal.
No, how are they saying what about government? Government will present its intelligence when they attack. When government takes action, you also start trying a vendetta.
Exactly. So that is the question. That Prabir Purkayas is doing what he is doing is entirely his business. The government will investigate. Mr. Bansal, the question though is, what is the interest in political parties trying to shield someone who is on China's payroll? Why would political parties shield him?
Definitely, you see, the way this story is being constructed, that both the political parties have our own party, political parties, any journalist or any news agency, if they come in with contact with a political party, they have to respond. But to say that it is a part of a conspiracy, you are abetting all this is all humbug. And this is just, you see, now recently, the way
so the political parties were responding because they felt, oh, journalists are being harassed in this country. I don't know. I remember a few cases where the Rajasthan police came looking for a journalist. At that time, there were many political parties who were cheering, sir. Then they weren't saying, oh, why are journalists being harassed? That time they were cheering. That time they were clapping. That time they were saying, good job, Jaipur police.
But let me say.
But Prabir Purkayas gets everyone's sympathy. Why? That is my simple question. Why did our country's opposition parties defend a Chinese propagandist?
No, Chinese propaganda, if Mr. Rahul Gandhi says Indo-Klam Chinese are raising concrete construction.
Sir, leave Doklam. Let's talk about NewsClick. Let's talk about NewsClick.
Tell me.
Let's talk about NewsClick.
Responded to
Definitely, whatever you are saying, that doesn't raise a finger. That doesn't mean that we are condoning it. Not at all. Not at all. And why all this controversy?
If a man is taking illegal foreign funds, the government investigates, and you call it a stifling of free speech.
Let me say, give me the time for that. This recently, you see, why all this picture is constructed, why this ecosystem is being created. Reason being, recent verdict of the court, the way Mr. Rahul Gandhi has been vindicated, the way
don't try and spin. It's a very, very valiant attempt at spinning. Unfortunately, it's a very sad spin. Nobody is going to buy it. I mean, surely you are not saying. So hold on a second. Are you saying, Mr. Bansal, that New York Times is writing a piece about Neville Roy Singham because New York Times is scared of what Rahul Gandhi is coming back into Lok Sabha?
Definitely, the way political atmosphere in this country is taking shape.
अरे पर न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स तो कांग्रेस की चहेती है.
Ruling party, it is unnerving the ruling party, and whosoever is associated with the ruling party, it is unnerving them. So all these hackers and all these questions.
देखिए भाई कैसे क्या दिन आ गए हैं अनिला सिंह, अभी न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स में भी डर का माहौल है.
My Ram to all, and really it is laughable. Perhaps Mr. Bansal doesn't know that what type of relation New York Times shares with your political party, sir. Go and check it out. But yes, indeed, when we talk about the nexus of journalists, media houses, companies, Chinese deep pockets, NGOs, it is very scary. It is very scary because our country is involved in it or targeted by this nexus. And like you were talking about Purkayas, when he was questioned कि आपकी तो लॉस बनाने वाली कंपनी थी और इतने हाई रेटेड शेयर्स से आपने कैसे फंड अपने कंपनी में बुलाए, बोले कि नहीं मेरी कंपनी जो है ना बहुत प्रॉफिट मेकिंग है, दैट इज व्हाई we sold per share 11,510 rupees. This explanation he gave. Mr. Bhattacharya, you said that I'm not sitting here as a spokesperson of NewsClick, but indeed you are advocating on behalf of NewsClick. And let me tell the gentleman sitting here, if we talk about the dotted India, dotted means I.N.I. D.I.A. Dotted India and NewsClick, because Padma, just now we were listening and viewing that how the dotted line email is revealed by your channel. So whether we talk
Mr.
about
Bhattacharya, your name is taken, so you have the right to respond. Yes, sounding like a spokesperson for NewsClick.
Can I rebut?
Yes, go on, Mr. Bhattacharya.
Can I complete?
Let them quickly rebut.
No. I'm sorry. I'm not here to respond. I'm just responding to Anila Singh. This is not a response from NewsClick. This is a response from Bhattacharya to Mrs. Anila Singh. Anila ji, let me ask you, what is the percentage of amount of donation that has come into BJP from outer sources? And are you ready to declare those sources? Why has the government kept the funding into the political parties out of the ambit of Lokpal? Why have you kept it out of the Lokpal ambit? Secondly,
Mr. Bhattacharya, you can have all the debates you want about electoral bonds, about Lokpal, about Mr. Gandhi coming back into Lok Sabha, about, the RSS takeover of New York Times. But there are some questions which still remain unanswered, which is that one, what were people at NewsClick doing taking dictation from Chinese fronts? And why were our opposition parties giving cover fire to people who were peddling Chinese propaganda? It's as basic a question as that, and that is all that we're going to keep asking. Thanks, gentlemen, and Anila Singh for joining me. I'll see you next at 8 on India Upfront, where this, remember, is only part 1 of what we have got you. We have got an entire trail of damning emails between the Chinese fronts sitting in Shanghai and the Chinese shills sitting in our midst. Another exposing at 8 p.m. on India Upfront.